Hell Drivers looks like a film about dangerous driving. The image most people remember is simple enough. Lorries hurtling down narrow roads, dust hanging in the air, engines straining under impossible loads. Men pushing heavy vehicles far beyond the point where common sense suggests they should stop. On the surface, it is a film built around speed and danger. But the more interesting question is why any of this is happening in the first place. Because Hell Drivers is not really about lorries, it's about the yard, the workplace, the peculiar culture that develops when a group of men spend every day measuring themselves against one another. The world of the film is remarkably small. A quarry, a haulage company, a collection of drivers hauling loads from one place to another. There is nothing glamorous about the work, no grand mission, no larger purpose, just another load, then another, then another. Yet within that ordinary environment, a contest has developed. The faster you drive, the more you earn. The more loads you complete, the better you look. Nobody wants to be known as the slow driver. Nobody wants to be the man who backs off when everyone else keeps pushing. That is where the danger begins. Not with the roads, not with the vehicles, with the people. Nobody gathers the drivers together and orders them to take risks. The pressure comes from somewhere much harder to pin down. A glance, a reputation, the fear of men looking weak in front of the other men. Every workplace develops its own rules. Some are written down. Most are not. The drivers in Hell Drivers understand those unwritten rules perfectly. Drive faster, take chances, don't complain. And whatever happens, don't be the man who lets the side down. What makes the film so effective is that all this feels believable. The behaviour doesn't seem exaggerated, it feels observed. Anyone who's worked in a competitive environment will recognise the pattern. A shortcut becomes normal, a risk becomes routine. Something that would have seemed reckless on the first day becomes ordinary after 6 months. The line never disappears, it just keeps moving. That idea sits at the centre of the film. Every driver is trying to prove something, sometimes to management, mostly to each other. The job becomes a test of nerve. Who can go faster? Who can handle more pressure? Who is willing to push just a little further than everyone else? The competition keeps feeding itself because nobody wants to lose. And losing in this world is not really about money. It is about pride. That is where Stanley Baker's performance becomes so central. He arrives as a man who has not yet accepted the yard's values. He understands the game almost immediately. He sees the rivalries, he sees the boasting, he sees the risks. The question is whether he is willing to become part of it. Baker plays the role with a certain distance. While everyone around him seems caught up in the competition, he spends much of the film watching, listening, trying to decide where he stands. That gives the story its tension. The audiences can see the pull of the work. We can see how easy it would be to join in, and we can see the cost of doing so. The film's world is overwhelmingly male, which is hardly surprising given its setting, but Peggy Cummins provides an important counterpoint. While the drivers are trapped in endless contests of pride and reputation, her presence reminds us that there is a world beyond the quarry yard and its rivalries. The fact that the men struggle to escape those rivalries, even when given the opportunity, tells us a great deal about the world they inhabit. And around Baker is a remarkable cast. Patrick McGoohan brings an edge of aggression that makes every appearance feel unpredictable. His character seems to thrive on confrontation. The competition is not something he tolerates, it is something he enjoys. William Hartnell occupies a different position. He represents authority, but not complete control. The yard may have managers and supervisors, but nobody ever seems entirely in charge. The atmosphere always feels as though it could slip beyond anybody's grasp. And then there are the familiar faces that modern audiences inevitably notice. Modern viewers often arrive at Hell Drivers because somebody has shown them the cast list. Stanley Baker, Patrick McGoohan, William Hartnell, Peggy Cummins, Herbert Lom, Sid James, Sean Connery, David McCallum. It feels less like a cast list and more like somebody emptying out a box of British cinema and television history. The result is a film that feels unusually rich in personality. These are not cameos. Wherever the camera turns, it finds another performer capable of holding the screen. Not all of them were equally famous at the time, and some would achieve their greatest success years later. But there is a remarkable concentration of talent gathered around what is, on the surface, a fairly straightforward thriller. What matters is not simply recognizing them, it is seeing how well they fit into the world of the film. The yard feels populated, lived in. Every driver seems to have a place within its social hierarchy. Every man has found his own way of surviving it. The driving sequences remain impressive, of course. Even now, they carry a physical weight that modern action scenes sometimes struggle to achieve. You can feel the size of the vehicles. You can feel the danger. You can feel the consequences if something goes wrong. But the action works because it always means something. These are not random stunts. Each run is another attempt to prove a point. Each race is another argument between men who refuse to back down. Danger has a purpose. It emerges naturally from the relationships between the characters. That is why the film remains interesting, not because it contains crashes, not because it contains speed, but because it understands how dangerous behaviour becomes normal. Nobody wakes up intending to take foolish risks. People drift into them, one compromise at a time, one shortcut at a time, one attempt to impress the wrong person at the wrong moment. The quarry yard in Hell Drivers is full of men making those decisions every day. Some know exactly what they are doing. Some probably tell themselves they are still in control. But all of them are shaped by the same environment. Looking at the film today, what stands out is how little of its argument has aged. The vehicles may have changed, the workplace may have changed, but the behaviour feels familiar. Most people have encountered some version of this culture at some point in their lives. A place where taking risks earns respect. A place where caution is mistaken for weakness. A place where everybody knows the rules, even though nobody ever says them out loud. And that is what gives Hell Drivers its lasting appeal. Beneath the dust, the engines, the crashes lies a very simple observation about people. Put a group of competitive men together, give them something to prove, then reward the ones who push furthest. The results are rarely surprising. The only surprise is how quickly everyone starts to think it is normal.